Class is now in session. I'm Professor Hockey, and today we will be recapping day 2 of the second round of the NHL playoffs. 2 more series kicked off here tonight, and the first one on the list was Boston versus Tampa Bay. This ended up being a rather close game, but in the end, the Boston Bruins would win by just a single goal. This would start off with a Charlie Coyle goal, then Pastrnak on the power play, and finally Marchand. Then it would be the Lightning trying to claw back in. They would get a goal from Hedman and then another one from Hedman in the dying minutes of the third period, but there would not be a third one there for the Lightning, and they would end up losing. Good news for the Boston Bruins. I have to start with Yaroslav Halak. He was really my only doubt coming in here for the Boston Bruins, whether or not he'd be able to hold out against a pretty offensively strong Lightning team, and that was exactly the case here. He was very good. He certainly outdueled Vasilevsky. Just almost, you could say, you could technically point to him having been the MVP here for the Boston Bruins in this game, so definitely a great look. Another thing, this top line for the Boston Bruins, basically seemingly always very good, and that of course was the case here tonight as well. The only bad news for the Boston Bruins is that in the end this game was kind of close. As we approached the last few minutes of the third period, the Lightning started putting on the pressure, and that's something they can absolutely take some confidence from, and so the Boston Bruins will need to be prepared for a better response and better start to the game from the Lightning in game 2, but right now it's a pretty good start for the Bruins. In terms of the Lightning, on the good news side, I did mention that Halak outdueled Vasilevsky, but that wasn't necessarily because Vasilevsky was bad, but more so with how good Halak was. Vasilevsky, a goaltender who I really haven't mentioned at all thus far in my recaps. I was more so focusing on Korpisalo during the Blue Jackets Tampa Bay reviews, but Vasilevsky has been pretty good for the Lightning throughout, and I thought here tonight he actually looked quite solid, and it was mostly, which is what the bad news is for the Lightning, it was mostly just critical errors from the Lightning that would eventually lead to a couple of these goals, especially this third one. Just a sort of not careless, but sort of a sloppy play, an inattentive play by Victor Hedman in front of the net. He just lets himself get his pocket picked on this play by the Bruins top line, and they execute a perfect passing play that leads to this Marchand goal that ends up actually being the game winner. And while Hedman, of course, you could say redeems himself with the couple last 2 goals, it was just some critical errors for the Tampa Bay Lightning that eventually get jumped on. It was sort of reminiscent of the Blue Jackets series where they would make just a couple of mistakes and the Blue Jackets wouldn't jump on them. That's exactly what happened here for the Bruins. Now, I thought the Bruins, compared to the Blue Jackets, put up a much cleaner effort throughout the game. So this is still not something that the Lightning are going to be able to clean up easily. But it is something that it should be pointed out. These are mistakes from the Lightning. It's not over for them. It's just game 1. But that is a problem there. And then the second series that did kick off tonight, that's the Golden Knights versus the Canucks. And honestly, I give bad news and good news for each team in each of these games, basically. But for this one, it's just so difficult to do at this point. It's a 5-0 win from the Golden Knights. They get goals from basically all of their top players: Marchessault, Smith, Stone, Tuck, Pacioretty. 5-0 victory. It was a great game by Lehner. Good defense from the Golden Knights. Great offense from the Golden Knights. There's honestly nothing bad I can say about this. The only redeeming quality here for the Vancouver Canucks is the fact that it's game 1. I would honestly believe that you could ask almost any Canucks fan in the world after having watched this game and say, well, what can you take out of this game? They'd probably just say, well, it's a 7-game series, because there's just nothing redeeming you could take out of here. It was a complete dismantling at the hands of the Golden Knights. I predicted the Golden Knights to win this series, and I suspected that they'd look more improved than they did in the Blackhawks series in round 1, but I didn't think they'd look this good. And it seemed as though maybe the Canucks thought that they'd be able to put up a similar performance as they were doing against the St. Louis Blues that won them that series in 6 games, but it's clearly they're going to have to play multiple levels above that to be competitive in this one, because the Golden Knights absolutely took it to them. It wasn't even remotely close. Now, that doesn't mean that the series is over for the Canucks. This doesn't mean it's going to be a sweep for the Golden Knights necessarily, as the Canucks can absolutely put up a much better performance as we move into game 2, but definitely is not a great sign thus far. But that will do it for this recap. In terms of predictions, I had said that the Tampa Bay Lightning would win in 7 games. I went with the Lightning just purely based on the goaltending position here for the Boston Bruins, but I may be wrong on that. The Bruins have won this first game, though I do think, having watched this one, that this is probably a series that will go all the way, or at least come very, very close to that. So 7 games for the Lightning is still a possibility. And then when it comes to the Golden Knights and the Canucks, I do still believe the Golden Knights will absolutely win this series. Will this go to 6 games? Potentially, depends on how the response is for the Canucks in game 2, but right now the Golden Knights have all of the cards right here, and the Canucks are really, they're left with not much. Class dismissed.